him say it before. That's the mistake that he made, is that he agreed to whatever, like, okay, sure, sounds good, like standard possession, thinking that because
yeah.
they were very amicable. And hi, friends. Welcome to My Divorce Real Estate. I'm Amber Gifford, and today we have Mia Baratowski. She's family lawyer here in Houston, Texas, and we're going to talk about something that is always a hot topic when you're getting a divorce and you've
Yes.
never been divorced and you have kids. So if you don't have kids, this probably isn't for you, but unless you want to talk about your dog. But anyway, people do that. Anyway, we're going to talk about SPO. You're going, what is SPO? Standard possession order, or expanded possession of a child.
Yes.
So I always get this question too, like, hey, what's going to happen to my kids? When am I going to see them? So let's just briefly go over what this standards are. Yeah, the options. You tell them.
So there's a ton of different options when it comes to possession and access. But there's two in the family code. So if for some reason your case ends up getting very contested and you're going in front of a judge to decide for you, you're going to probably end up with one of these two unless there's extenuating circumstances. So it's the standard possession order, or the SPO, or the expanded standard possession order. So the standard possession order is the first, third, and fifth weekend of every month. It's Thursday nights during the school year from 6 to 8. And then the summers, the default is essentially the month of July for the possessory conservator that, doesn't have primary possession of the kid.
So when you say first, third, fifth weekends, that's typically the dads. Not always.
Typically,
I mean,
yeah,
we're not that.
always, but typically,
And they're not every month, just so you know, and you may not know. Not every month has 5 weekends.
right. It's actually not that common. I think it happens a few times a year. But sometimes, if that month does have a fifth weekend, you will get 2 weekends in a row.
Yes.
That always trips people up.
Yes.
And
here's what always does trip us up too. So when you're thinking about a weekend, it doesn't start on Saturday, it starts on Friday. So if the 30th is Friday and the 1st is Saturday, the first is that Friday's not your first weekend. That's going to be your fifth probably, right?
Right.
So I always go, oh wait. And so even like freedom times is like, oh, my husband and I are free this week, and people go, I thought you said it was the 4th weekend. Right. And I'm like, well, you're counting your weeks wrong, but that's okay.
Right. So that's the standard possession order, and then holidays, things like that alternate. For the expanded standard, it's essentially the same. It's still first, third, and fifth weekends, but that Thursday dinner becomes an overnight.
Yes.
Sunday you drop off at school on Monday, so you get a couple extra nights. And people get, 50-50 possession schedules are super popular right now, and they're like a buzzword. But I think, and I haven't done the math, but this is what I've heard. If you do the math for an expanded standard possession order, it's like 45% to dad if he's the one with the possession schedule, and 55% to mom. It's almost 50-50.
Right.
It's close. And there's some new rules from the Texas Family Code that deals with geographical location. So if you're under 50 miles, between 50 and 100 miles, and over 100 miles from where the child lives,
right,
it, slightly varies. And all of this that we're talking about is for Texas, and it's all general information.
Yes.
But,
just the basics, so you kind of have an idea if you're considering divorce and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to see my kids. And of course, too, you can agree to anything.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the schedule, but I will say that the decree or your final order and what you decide on, it's much easier to not be creative and come up with, well, on Tuesday we're going to have this, and on Wednesday we're going to have craft day, and then we're going to, that's like confusing, and it's hard to follow. And at the end of the day, your kids get older, they get busier, they start driving, and then it's a whole big hot mess express. So keep it simple.
Right. I agree. And I always tell my clients this too. The first paragraph of any possession schedule says something to the effect of, you can agree to do anything otherwise as long as the parties are in agreement. So if you and your spouse or ex-spouse are co-parenting while together, and you want to veer off No one's going to come knock on your door and see if you're following that standard
That's right.
possession order. But you want to make sure that whatever you do end up, either,
Make sure it's
whatever
in
possession
writing.
schedule, you can live with it, because if that
That's true.
ex-spouse stops agreeing, then you have to follow your order. So,
Your
just-
order is your Bible at the end of the day, and it's meant for if you're fighting, because even if you're not now, there's a possibility you might later, and if
Right.
you are, you fall back on that order. So she's right. Make sure you can live with that order at the end of the day, because that's your fallback.
Right.
My parents, for example, so I'm a child of divorce 7 times over, and there's a lot of people coming and going in our lives, never followed anything. Oh, what are you doing here? Which I'm not sure that's so great either, because we never knew anything from up from down, but
right. I think, generally follow the weekends and things
Yeah.
like that. But if it's, a special occasion, or, hey, Thursday night I have to work late, could I have Tuesday night instead?
Be
be
flexible,
flexible.
yeah.
I encourage people try
It's
to
for
put your
your
differences
kids.
aside. It's for your kids.
my ex-husband and I did we have expanded possession, but we did, in addition to that, we were being creative. I wanted him to feel like he was going to be able to see them, because that wasn't the purpose in a divorce, is to take them away. So I offered up Tuesday night dinners as well, even though he worked a lot, and it just got to be too much. And the kids were complaining, like, I just got home, I'm tired, I don't want to go. And it was just too much. And I recognized it. And then I mentioned it to him, and I don't think he was not on board. He finally was like, yeah, you're right. It's too much. And I've always been flexible, because at the end of the day, it is not about me. And I don't want to take his children from him, and our
Right.
children, they love us the same. You're their mother and their father, and they don't want to choose. End of the story. Yeah.
Right. So, in addition to those standard possession or expanded, you can get really creative, like you had said. 50-50 possession, like I said, is kind of like a hot topic right now.
Who would have thought fads in divorce?
I know. If you want something that's creative or unusual or 50-50, you're probably going to need to get it in a mediated settlement agreement. Even if you both agree, it's probably best to go get an MSA for that, so that the court will approve it, because they really want to see those ones that are in the family code. But you can do week on, week off. I've seen that before. I've
too.
seen something called a 2-2-3, which, let's see if I can explain this right. It's one parent has Monday, Tuesdays. The second parent has Wednesday, Thursdays, and then weekends truly alternate.
Yes.
So that's kind of popular. It's just a lot of back and forth.
That's why I didn't do it. They recommended, but I was like, oh gosh,
Just think about
your lifestyle. And
your lifestyle, because especially 5-10 years.
And your kids' activities too. Like if you're
Right.
just shifting around, like, oh, I'll meet you at the gymnastics, then we're gonna go over to flag football, and I mean,
It gets
a lot.
complicated. So just really, I think, take a good look at kind of where your life is and where you think it may be, to see which one's going to work for you.
True.
But and there's another thing too. If you work like a different schedule, like I know I've
Shift?
heard of shift work, firefighters, police.
True.
There are some possession schedules out there for you, so that you can still
Yes.
have time with your children if you work on the weekends or something like that. So don't be discouraged.
No.
Those things are available.
Scotty had that. He's usually here with me, but
Yeah.
he had two. He was able to choose 10 days a month or whatever of his choosing if he notified. So I'm really glad you pointed that out, because a lot of people that do work shift work, well, that doesn't work for me. And then people can be ugly on the other side and go, well, sorry, it's not your weekend, which, they do. And that's not really very nice. So,
Right. So if that is your occupation, make sure that you don't get a standard possession order.
Right.
Because even if your spouse is like, oh, don't worry, I'll always agree with you.
This is
I've seen that
yes,
turn
ugly. This is
too.
exact, and I know if Scotty were here, he would say this story, because I've heard him say it before. That's the mistake that he made, is that he agreed to whatever, like, okay, sure, sounds good, like standard possession, thinking that because
yeah.
they were very amicable, and he was like, okay, but he worked shift work, and he never had weekends off. So then when it came time where he sorry, you can't have them, he was like, well, but I don't have weekends off. So it created just a bomb fire. So a bomb
Right.
of a fire.
I think this is probably one of the very most important pieces
I do
of
too.
your
Divorce.
divorce. So really take some time and think, and that's kind of what temporary orders are for too, to see if something works. That's another video, but
Yes,
it just-
down below. Click
yeah.
that link.
just think about it, and
Something you said too, so in a divorce seminar that we hosted together, she mentioned, and I always repeat this to people too, like if you're going to get in temporary orders, she had said, you know, some attorneys go, oh, it's just temporary orders, just, you know, we'll change it
Yeah.
later. And she had said, you know, just so you know, if you get in it and you agree to it and you want to like drastically change it later, the judge or something go, well, but you agreed to it before. So I like this tip.
Essentially, the bottom line of that is take temporary orders seriously, because a lot of times what you get on temporary is what you're going to get on final orders, your final decree of divorce. So take it seriously. Don't, you know.
Oh, I'll change it later.
Yeah, we'll do something different later. Definitely
later.
make sure it's something that you can live with and that you like.
For sure. And here's the other thing. These people don't walk in your shoes. You do. And only you know what that feels like. And even though they're suggesting things to you, does not mean you have to do what that is. But be open to hearing the different ideas, because that's their job, is to tell you like, hey, this is what they're experts in, but only you walk in those shoes and only you know. And she's right to also say like, you know, my kids were little when I divorced, but now they're driving and it's totally different. And, you know, I really doesn't matter to me when they come and go, whatever works on their schedule that's not totally affecting us with travel or whatever. So, you know, it is about being flexible. And again, it's not about you. Let's be real.
Yeah, this is hard because, you know, everyone wants to spend all the time with their kids.
They do.
One last thing I do want to say is that if your child is under the age of 3, there's some different provisions where essentially, you know, Texas thinks that children under the age of 3 need more frequent contact with both parents. Going
good.
a week without seeing one parent is kind of a lot for that child that age. So don't be afraid if your child is under 3. Definitely ask what you can do differently.
Awesome.
There.
Great information. We hope you found it as valuable as we know it is.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe for more information. And as always, we're here to bring you real life experiences to all your real estate needs.
Yes, thank you.
And she got it.